I have one person. In about 5 audience polls I've done, I have not seen a single hand raised, right? That's the size of the problem. There's so many people saying data is the mind. Digital industry is sold on you can measure data, you can analyze data, you can track everything. That's how we all sell digital, right? Against TV, digital is so much better. But no one has seen the data. It's a myth. We are looking at summaries and we're looking at conversion rates and saying, look, my conversion rate is great, my LTV is amazing, my CAC is this. But what is the data? That summary. How did that summary got calculated? I don't know. Someone probably did that. What rules did they use? I don't know. Please look at the data. It's not a myth. Data exists. You just have to find out ways to look at it and analyze it.
This line is going to haunt them, Dheeraj. You've conveyed it.
Thank you.
So Monica, this is a new question for our next edition, for sure.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
is a starting point.
Absolutely.
Okay, and Monica, you touched upon consumer concern on sharing data.
Right.
Cover a few points from the report on that.
On sharing data.
Consumers' concern on sharing the data.
Right. So, actually, I'm going to build on an interesting message through your question as well, and which takes forward some of what Dheeraj was saying. So, of course, consumer is concerned on sharing data because they haven't built adequate trust. They don't think there are adequate data security policies. They don't think there is enough governance, and therefore they're not willing to share it. And those who shared it have probably also not experienced quality personalization. They still receive content or messages they shouldn't be receiving. So there are also personalization quality challenges, which therefore does not encourage them to continue sharing as generously as they would like. What I do also want to communicate through this point is, while Dheeraj spoke about seeing data, the other thing which I would say as MMA is what we've seen after talking to a lot of marketers is that even if data tech is there, even if MarTech is there, the utilization of it is very poor. So it's not like companies are not investing into data, and it's not that bad a percentage, but the percentage of those not utilizing after investing is huge, right? Which is where the big challenge is. Because if you're not utilizing the tech you have to your advantage, you're not going to be able to bridge the gaps that exist. And that's not happening because either they're not trained adequately, or there is not enough ownership across departments to ensure that they leverage available tools, and several other such factors. So I think one message, like Dheeraj was saying, see data, I would say use what you have as tools and technology, and don't let that investment go waste.
I think the use case is outsourcing. Everything is getting outsourced. You see the data, you analyze the data, you tell me what to do. Okay, Deepak, we were having an interesting conversation that while there are so many privacy concerns, right, collaboration within the data has to increase, right? How do we drive that?
Okay, so yes, data collaboration is going to be a very key aspect now. And as we talk about data collaboration, I think the first part of the journey is really the relationship which the consumer has with a particular platform. Okay, so for example, let's say that all of us as consumers in the room, we may have a relationship with Amazon and Flipkart. Okay, or someone would say, listen, I'm an SME business owner and I have a relationship with IndiaMart as a platform. Okay, these are platforms where we go and engage with. How many of us in the room have read the privacy policy of these platforms? Okay, have you read the privacy policy of Amazon when you shop on Amazon? Has anyone read a privacy policy?
No, we just want it delivered.
Yeah. So I want to echo that part. So I think there is an element of consumer trust, and there is an element of consumer understanding. Okay, and there is a role which the enterprise also has to play with the consumer. Okay, so they all have to come together. Okay, the enterprise is going ahead and announcing it in the privacy policy that, look, you know what, when you're engaging with me on the platform and you're utilizing our services, these are the use cases in which we will anonymize your segments, and these are the use cases and manner in which we would leverage it for marketing objectives. And we would leverage it with our marketing technology partners, okay? But we would never share your PII data, which is personally identifiable information. We will never share certain things. So all that is explicitly mentioned or or platforms or enterprises who explicitly go out and call it out. That is the role of the enterprise there. And at the same time, as an industry and as an enterprise, you have to create awareness with your own customers that do check out the privacy policy. Okay, the more you read about it, that means I think if all of us are well informed, okay, about our relationship with the platform, I think the trust will automatically start building in. You don't sell trust, you just inform, right? So that's one part. I also feel I would take that opportunity to say that, listen, somewhere as an industry body or as a neutral platform, someone has to go ahead and create a mass awareness with consumers that when if you're a customer of a Jio, if you're a customer of an Airtel, if you're a customer of any enterprise, please read the privacy policy. That's one part. Now, as you talk about that, so organizations today are calling this out clearly. And under that context, okay, they are doing audience collaboration. Because under their terms of service, they're calling out that these are the privacy policies we have. This is the anonymized manner in which we would leverage it, okay, with our marketing technology partners. So you're basically saying that, listen, the analytics is getting generated there. And that's how, that intelligence is being leveraged by someone else in the ecosystem, another enterprise. Yeah. So that's where the audience collaboration piece is at play. And in all of this, when a technology company or a marketer on the other side who's caring to do audience collaboration, okay, there again, there is a critical aspect that you're not really taking their segment data. You're not taking any data. You're basically borrowing, activating, and deleting it. So there is also, it has to be backed with a process where there is no data storage happening. There is just usage and there is deletion. And all of that is coming out in a very auditable process between both enterprises. Right. Okay. So there is trust between two enterprises of transparency and auditability. And there is trust between consumer and the enterprise as well. So when you have all of this at play, you will find more and more collaborations happening.
You have a very interesting point, and I was just thinking, today NPS is one question, CSAT probably 4 or 5. Privacy policy goes into pages. Right? So I think an awareness, to create awareness, I think a simple approach on that you're signing up for this, these are the 5 things, 10 things, and then goes the rest of it. I think, that would be a good start and easy for a consumer to, instead of just sticking and signing in and moving on. That's one of the interesting things. So we don't have Amrita with us. She couldn't fly in. And she has a very interesting use case on AI at Microsoft. Our report really showed that there's extensive development on CRM and MRM, and a lot of clients have also moved into DMP, CDP, and we had a session on that. But very few are evolving into use of AI and automation. And she has a very interesting use case, and we'll just play a video where she's talking about that. Rudra, can we play the video? Yes.
So we're seeing AI and ML play a stronger role across our content nurture programs. What this means is actually moving from data on what a customer has done in the past to what a customer could potentially want. It's basically moving to predictive needs. What this specifically means is looking at how a customer engages across your content, across different touch points, and then coming up with a model which is predictive in nature. This is something which can then basically play out as daily recommendations to the sales team to further pick up. So I think this is one of the use cases of AI and ML which is actually playing out, and it's something we've already adopted here at Microsoft.
Lovely. I think, things will evolve. Clients will take time. Advertisers will take time. They will test various technologies. And the use cases will evolve as they will start driving a lot of ROI. Monica, coming to you on the report. How would you like your stakeholders to consume this report?
Okay, so I think the panelists did a very good job of already stating very fundamental and important stuff, which was not in the report, so really appreciate that. I think there's a lot already covered there. I'll just quickly leave all of you with a perspective on how you could consume this report the best. It is a playbook. Map yourself in terms of where are you in the data journey. See if you can get some POCs going to increase the number of use cases for data. Find ways to see if you would like to get a custom view of how you stack up in the category with our help. We are happy to do that. And lastly, collaborate with our experts. This is also a data capability expert panel that we put together, or any other experts who you think can help you to be able to strengthen your data capabilities. So in a nutshell, it's P square, C square. Playbook, POC, collaborate, custom view for yourselves, and you'll get better. So good luck with that.
Lovely. Final comments, Sujit, I'll start with you on the use case and personalization data. What are the key takeaways for you from the report?
So if I talk about, if I can take the liberty of talking about our own data on personalization. Personalization for us, for not only for us, for the entire BFSI sector is big. We work on personalization models, we work on propensity models. Essentially the difference is personalization is what we feel we can offer to a customer. Propensity is what the customer may be looking out at that point in time. The result of this is that in the last 3-4 years, whatever, if you take any category, any home loans, personal loans, or credit cards, a substantial percentage, more than 50% of our sales has happened to people basis of personalization and propensity platforms. Gone are the days where you would just, do an open shot, send mass mailers to 1 lakh people and hope that out of them maybe some 5,000 will take a loan. So more than 50% of our loan sales are happening to people basis personalization models. And I think that is the order of the day, and that is only going to become bigger and bigger and better as the days goes by. We were talking about data. This entire report is about data. The beauty about personalization is that we're able to look at financial transactions. We're able to look at preferences. We're able to look at data from different sources and being able to build saying this person may need a personal loan at so much a point in time. We've also talked about security of data, and I think a lot of people here touched upon it. I think that's very important, that while we use the data, we use it in a manner where customers are convinced that the data is safe. We don't misuse the data is not shared outside the platforms, the data is not used for spamming. In fact, before we started off our personalization campaigns on external platforms, I remember as a bank, we had to go through 3 levels of compliance clearance to convince the people internal control groups that we are showing, A, we're not sharing data outside, B, we are only showing data to the people who have given the permission to be both shown the data, shown the ad, as well as the permission to use the data. So I think it's incumbent upon brands to use the data correctly, not spam, but also use it in a manner where we don't break the trust of the customer. If, God forbid, if there is a mass movement in society where people start saying, I don't want my data to be used for anything, what will brands do? What will all this data be used for? You can use all the analysis, but you won't be able to go out and reach out to consumers. So I think it's incumbent upon industry to be responsible and use it in the right manner so that it's a win-win situation for both industry and consumers over the long run. That's what I feel.
GDPR is not too far. So let's
I think we should see as an opportunity,
yes.
not as a challenge.
Yes, yes. Deepak, from the measurement perspective, what are your key takeaways from the report?
I think what I heard Ashish sharing a salient point that at an overall level, when one looks at marketing budgets in India, things are pretty balanced between branding and performance marketing, almost like even Steven, right? But the challenge happens once you start dissecting it by categories and brands. That's where the trouble starts. And especially COVID, a lot of dollars were pumped into performance marketing at the expense of brand building. And many case in points, especially D2C segment, brands which started out and grew to the size of 30 to 50 CR on the basis of performance marketing are nowhere today because it was done at the expense of brand building. Bhaskar spoke about Mamaearth. I think the beauty of Mamaearth was it took a very, very balanced approach between brand building and performance marketing. So I think that's a key takeaway for me, going forward from a marketing effectiveness perspective, consulting clients that do not ignore brand building at the expense of growth.
Yeah, that's a critical aspect. Deepak, from a solution provider's perspective.
I think from a solution provider perspective, the way we see it is, one, we definitely see that if I look at the trend, what's going to be interesting same time of the year, probably next year sometime, the amount of first party data which is there in the ecosystem would probably grow 5x. Okay, so that's going to be a huge leap out there because more and more digital transactions, more and more online platforms. So you're going to see a massive growth there. And I would see that organizations will find ways to really leverage tech and platforms to do collaborations and do data-driven collaborations. And as they start doing data-driven collaborations, okay, because through that insights, I'm very confident that if the report is talking about 17 use cases, the insights will create another 10 use cases. Yeah. Okay?
You're right.
You know, so you will see that that ecosystem is suddenly saying that, listen, there is segments, there is collaboration, and collaboration is leading to expansion of use cases. Right. Okay, along the way, you keep solving and addressing the problems on security, consumer consent. So this ecosystem will explode, very, very, very rapidly.
Yeah, valid point. Dheeraj, your takeaway?
I think I covered the first step already, look at the data. But I think more important, equally importantly is after you've looked at data, question the data. When you see it, you will find weird things happening. You will find weird IP addresses, weird make and models, weird patterns or spikes coming in, say, 2 o'clock in the morning. Suddenly there are spikes of traffic coming in. Who the hell is up at 2 a.m. in the morning? Look at very simple question, very simple things. Say you're running a lead gen campaign, say an impression or click-based campaign resulting in leads. How many leads come back with not interested or I didn't fill up the form? For a lot of brands I talked to, almost 50% end up being that someone filled up the lead, you called him after 5 minutes and he said, I'm not interested. Wait, how did that happen? The guy filled up the lead and in 5 minutes you're calling him up and he's saying, I'm not interested. What happened in that 5 minutes for him to change his mind? Probably the answer, once you ignore all the obvious choices, what you'll be left over will probably be invalid traffic. And that's going to help you in understanding which channel, which source is generating that traffic. If you are a D2C brand, if you're having order deliveries, find out how many of those orders are actually not getting delivered, which of the orders are actually cancelled and returned, which of the orders have very low order values. Typically what you're going to find is they're going to get concentrated on certain channels. Then ask that question, why is the cohort of users from this channel behaving this way, while cohort of users from other channels seem to be not behaving this way? Asking these very simple questions will help you in getting a better aspect of what channels you should be spending on, where you should be getting better CAC, where your conversion rates are better, and where you can trust the data. And that I think is important. Digital marketing needs to be fearless. You need to go out and explore new channels every day. I'm sure advertisers in the audience are getting pitches from sales teams of different channels, different properties saying run ads here, run ads here, run ads here. Who to choose, where to run? I think the answer is data. And for that, you have to see the data and question the data. Don't just assume a dashboard which says this was my CAC, this was your conversion rate, and take it and believe in it. I think the honor system doesn't work here. There was this saying, in God we trust, and the remaining is all data. So I think that's what you need to look at. So look at the data and question it.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up. And I was just thinking aloud, just a couple of minutes back, I got a call from a real estate guy. Like, sir, you were looking for a property. And I said, I'm not interested. So I have no idea. And they call with conviction. You saw the ad. I was like, no, I have not seen your ad. Who are you? So yes, dichotomy of being fearless and at the same time,
So this is called lead punching. Someone has basically punched in a lead on your behalf and earned some money out of you. That's how you're getting spammed with calls.
Lovely. Thank you, panelists. It was lovely to hear your point of view on data. Monica, are we doing any questions?
No, I think in the interest of time, the panelists will be around after the sessions. Please feel free to do one-on-ones, but we will close the session. Yes?
Thank
Yes.
you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I request Monica to present the token of appreciation to the panelist and the moderator for, having such an invigorating session. So request, yes. Energetic round of applause for such an interesting panel discussion, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, so we will be having the wine and cheese networking session. So if you have any questions, we can take it with the speakers, the panelists, and the moderator in that session when we're going to do the networking as well as the wine and cheese. Also, hope you have downloaded your copy and you are the first ones to grab the rich insights captured in the report. So you can scan the QR code and download your copy. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Zap Ads is an India-based global ad tech platform that brings in technology-driven advertising, offering 360-degree digital marketing via the proprietary artificial intelligence and machine learning-driven programmatic engine. So it's time to look at its AV. On that note, I would like to invite on stage Alok Pandey, Vice President Sales and Marketing, Zap Ads, as we would like to give them a token of appreciation. All right, moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, our next session is going to have some key takeaways, which include, you can use survey data to create a single view of the consumer, that is without worrying about myriad data silos, and many other key takeaways are going to be there. We have our next speaker, Puneet Awasthi, Director, Specialist Businesses, Insights Division, Kantar. Puneet has presented 5 papers at MRSI, including one that was awarded the best paper for cutting-edge work. Very warm welcome to you.
So, thank you everybody for staying on. Let's try and kind of make this very interesting for all of you. We represent a business that is largely in small data. So what are we doing in this discussion around, fairly big data sets, which are kind of, available now and are being harnessed in variety of ways to connect with consumers as such. But at the same time, almost all speakers mentioned that there is a challenge in that despite all the data being there, there is a lacune in that one doesn't really know whether the consumer is likely to be using a particular category a lot more or not as such. So somebody who's available on Facebook or Google as such, there might be some dispositions that are available about them, but there could be certain other instances where there are no dispositions available of these people. Similarly, there are a lot of companies, particularly in the FMCG space, who do not really have as rich a first-party data as, say, for example, a BFSI entity as such. And therefore, the need to enrich and to ensure that the shampoo ad campaign that Bhaskar was talking about is really delivered to the most likely set of users who are likely to be using a premium shampoo is something that we can potentially do using small data, which can be integrated with big data. And that is something that we've been kind of, taking baby steps in. But to my mind, this is something that is going to be a very important space as we move into a cookieless world. As cookies kind of disappear, there is going to be that much more of an imperative to be able to enrich audiences better using multiple data sources, including small data sets. Just about 4 or 5 years ago, we were talking about the fact that data is everywhere. There is data which is social media, where people are talking about what they have experienced, are asking about products and services. There are platforms that are available where people are increasingly making purchase choices as such. So really, a lot of the information that is typically available through market research data is actually available in these data silos, and it is only a question of being able to connect it together and to be able to deliver deep consumer insights. But the reality is the silos are not really breaking down as fast as we'd want to. In fact, the concerns around data privacy have become that much more amplified, and as a result, there is a need to be able to bring together these different data silos, and market research data, which is all consent-based, sits at the center of this ecosystem, which allows for easier integration of these different data sets in a fairly cost-efficient manner. And if you look at the Indian market, there was a time when people said that if that audience is available on the internet, then we know that this is a certain type of product and service that these people are more likely to be using. Today we are looking at close to about 700 million people who are active on internet and actively consuming variety of things. It could be entertainment content, it could be product related content, it could be social communications, etc. A lot of that is literally the entire population of the country. We are heading towards a world where close to about 900 million people are going to be active internet users in the country. Literally almost all adults as such in the country across urban and rural. So in that scenario, the medium is no longer a differentiator in itself, and it is therefore even more imperative now than it was in the past to be able to select the right audience to send out a message in the right context for them to connect with the brands as such. The point that was made earlier, which is performance marketing is one thing, which is to be able to identify people who are in the marketplace and therefore, to talk to them when they are, say, at a mall about a particular offer in order to, maximize that particular trip. But it is important to be able to communicate to the right consumer in the right context at the right moment as such. And that is, to my mind, going to be very important for brands to be successful in times to come. Also, what's happening is the time spent is going up on the internet, which basically implies that the digital space and the physical space is kind of, in a sense, now very, it's kind of, complementary. People are spending a lot of time on digital, but they're seeking information. They might be going out and seeking, more information about products and services on other spaces which are not necessarily available. So it is possible that I could have seen an ad on television, on linear television, and then I've gone to Google search or Facebook and I've checked out a particular product. Then I have, probably written to a few friends, taken some information, and subsequently I've gone to some website. So now we are in a world where physical and digital are kind of, working together, and there is a need to understand the consumer in his or her totality, which is where all is he or she consuming media, and therefore to ensure that the spends as such are optimized across traditional and digital media, and not just, it's not just about digital, but it is about how best to reach out to the consumer, in a fashion where monies are not wasted. And that is something that we should be able to do, and which is what we are working towards. Consumers also are using multiple devices, so the same consumer who's on a smartphone might also be consuming content on a connected TV, might be consuming content on a laptop. So multiple devices are being used, and all of those devices are creating their own unique identifiers for the consumer. But that's the same consumer, so there could be wastage that is happening there too, and which is something that needs to be understood, mapped out for a better understanding of what is the unduplicated reach for your communication and spends. And how are we going to do that? There are two things that I'm going to be talking about, but broadly what we are looking at is a world where there is going to be a lot more of first-party data assets that market research agencies will also create, which is syndicated data sets which are owned by market research agencies, smaller data sets, but deep and rich data sets which allow for such integrations to be possible, firstly. Secondly, what we'll also see is a lot more of passive measurement of the consumer. Again, smaller sets, but with watertight consent, and that data set is available for the purpose of integration and enrichment. On personalization, this is a use case that we have where we were working with the audio OTT platform which wanted to enrich their internal data set with better audience insights as such, as also to be able to integrate their audience into larger media plans and kind of enrich their customer data set with things such as, say, for example, NCCS, which is something that is used extensively in defining target audiences. So what we did was we built a mechanism where we firstly took our two syndicated assets that we have available to us, where we've got an OTT panel that we are running, we've got a TGI, which is a survey-based system that we're running. We've integrated the two using appropriate fusion hooks as such. Then what we did was, we have the OTT consumption behavior coming in from the OTT panel. We've got dispositions coming in from TGI, which we've integrated with the first-party data that the client has using certain hooks as such in a clean room in a virtual environment, which ensure that their data, the customer data, doesn't go out for the purpose of integration and allowing, therefore, for sharper insights about the consumer in that environment. There's an entire process to it. I won't go into the details, but essentially what we did was we set it up on a clean room, we looked at overlaps and built the entire model using our first-party data assets, the syndicated data assets. So these are some of the profiles that we had, which is, for example, the kind of dispositions that this particular OTT brand users were more likely to be displaying in terms of habits, and therefore, what kind of merchandise to be given to them, what kind of communication to be used to actually connect with the consumer there. And of course, linking it to a variety of product categories, what kind of categories, what kind of, within that, whether it's premium or, what specific subcategories are being looked at as such and used by these people was something that we did. There's another case that I've got around purchase journey where we are setting up a passive panel where we are looking at understanding consumer exposure to advertising and video content, on variety of OTT, including YouTube, and similarly looking at their other search behavior, say Google search or search inside e-commerce apps, and therefore create a single view of the consumer. And that's something that allows for very rich understanding of consumers across multiple touch points, and at the same time do it in a manner which is safe and allow for these sets of this particular sample to be used as a seed for a variety of lookalike modeling, and therefore richer understanding of the consumer journey across a much larger data set that's available on, say, a Meta platform or any other such platform. So I'll not dwell too much in this on this particular slide. This is some of the work that we've done where we looked at advertising exposure on platform 1 versus platform 2 firstly for a particular ad. This was done earlier this year where we looked at platform 1, which delivered a reach of around 14%. We were able to map out the profile of the audience, in terms of age, in terms of gender, in terms of NCCS, in terms of a whole host of vectors about the consumer. We were also able to understand what has been the lift as such in terms of specific actions, incidents of the app being opened after having been exposed to the communication as such. So we are now moving to a world where passive is going to become that much more important. It is going to become important for big data to be integrated with small data for deeper understanding of the consumer, to be able to understand their behavior across multiple media, and therefore ensure that all wastage is trimmed out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable insights with us. Also, seeing the strength of the room, please. It's a very, very important announcement. I do understand that to maintain the spirit of the day, you will be needing refreshments. But it's a kind request to the audience. You can take your refreshments, your tea and coffee, and walk in and not miss out on any sessions. Yes, so you can take in your coffees and teas in the room, and you can attend the sessions as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, Kantar is the world's leading marketing data and analytics company, which has a complete, unique and rounded understanding of how people think, feel and act globally and locally in over 90 markets. So let's have a look at Kantar AV.
Throughout our 75-year history, we have been pioneers in understanding people and adopting new technologies to help us do that. The first to use facial recognition in advertising testing. The first to use people meters to measure TV audiences. The first to migrate to online interviewing. New technology today comes in different forms, from biodata and biometrics in healthcare, to capturing human sentiment and even voting intentions by analyzing social media, in using telemetry to enhance our understanding of customer experiences, piloting apps to measure out-of-home consumption, deploying audio recognition to measure media consumption on multiple devices, and most dramatically perhaps in exploiting big data, artificial intelligence and analytics to enable us to predict attitudes and behavior. But ours is a business where we use technology and data in pursuit of a goal: to inspire our clients, our people and society to create and flourish in an extraordinary world. And in doing so, some things won't change. Asking the right questions, listening hard, understanding better than anyone else the way people live, think, feel, vote, shop, watch and post. The desire to understand human needs and motivations has been around for centuries and will continue to define our purpose in the years to come.
On that note, let me tell you that the next session is going to be about data strategy. There are a lot of key highlights. One of the few things that is going to help us to develop a holistic view of the customer to drive engagement, as well as it's going to help us in creating CX and CRM strategies to work together to have a lasting impact on customers. We have our next speaker with us, Stephen Samuel, India Head Analytics Practice, Kantar. He has more than 20 years of experience of strategizing and implementing analytics, business and digital transformation for clients across consumer goods, retail and restaurants vertical. Very, very warm welcome to you. Let's have a huge round of applause for him.
Hi, everyone. There's very few left in the audience after all the interesting sessions that are there. Hopefully, I can keep it interesting. So we're going to talk about personalization of data, how to use data creatively in this scenario. Everybody loves a story. I think I'll start with a story so that the session can be more interesting. So this is about one of our clients in North America. It's an entertainment company which distributes anime movies in the US. For those who don't know anime, it's Japanese animation movies. And the basic thing that they do is they get these anime movies and they would distribute it across US. There's no science, there's no maths, but again, remember, they will not distribute it across all the theaters in the US, given the number of theaters that are there in the US. So what we suggested was, let's take a scientific approach to kind of look at how we can kind of look at where these movies need to be released. Now remember, the fan base for these anime movies is very, very specific. Not everybody is. It's a very curated segment that is there. The first thing that we did was to kind of look at which is the customer segment that is going to be interested in this particular movie. Remember, we had the database of these customers, but we knew who liked these particular directors, what is the genre of movies, what is the kind of content that they have been kind of looking at. Once you identified that, the next thing that we looked at was to use geospatial analytics, try to find out where are these people located and which is the theaters which are near them. Kind of do a one-on-one map to kind of map these people closer to them. So right now, what I have at one place is customer data, a segmented data, a curated data, and then what I'm kind of doing is looking at geospatial data to kind of bring it together to identify which are the people who are interested in these kind of movies and where do they live at, and which are the theaters which are near them. Now, bringing it all together, we started sending personalized communication to each one of them, the one that we have selected. Writing to them, each one saying that, there is a new movie coming up, and these people are really, really crazy about this particular segment of movies. I'm talking about anime. And when they started kind of coming together, when they started realizing there's a new release coming up of the feature that they liked, and this personalized communication they got, they were quite excited. There was one more step that we did. We actually also wrote to people whose data we did not have, where we said, okay, there's going to be people who are within that particular geography, and then there is people who we did not have that kind of an information, and then we reached out to them as well. What happened was, the movie made a box office business of almost 5 times a previous movie which was not driven by analytics. It was the highest average revenue per screen in the week 1. And the personalized rates, the rates that we started getting the response to it was much, much higher than before any time. How was this all possible? This did not happen in a day, obviously. So there is a 6-point activation that Kantar uses. The first one and the most important one was building the foundation of data, and that is where it all started. When we started building this data, we actually went we asked a very simple question. Can you tell me the sales of your business? And the first thing, so the marketing team had one, the CEO had another one, the operations had another one, the finance team another one. We had 5 sales numbers, 5 revenue numbers for the same company from different departments. And this was the reason why we said, let's stop everything else, let's get the database correct first. So what we did was clean the data, got the databases together, harmonized the data, and we had one single source of truth. And that was the most important part. All others can follow. The second thing what we did was, did a consumer segmentation. What were these based on? What were their purchase behavior? What was the content that they liked? What was their demographics? What was their lifestyle? Their interaction with the communication that we used to send out. All that got curated, and we were able to segment customers based on these particular different features. Once we were able to do that, we also built a consumer feedback system. My friend Puneet just talked about how important a survey data is. This is, you might say, transaction data generally never gets married with survey data. This is one area where we actually introduced feedback system. How are people, and this was able to, we were able to talk and understand what were their satisfaction levels. How were they scoring on NPS? Why were they dissatisfied with things? What is the kind of content they liked? How was their reviews on the system? This became a feedback loop into this data, and at every different given points of time, be it they're buying something, they want to kind of stop their subscription, this survey used to be triggered. And this not only enriched the data, this actually gave us very, very valuable feedback to actually stop attrition. Whenever we found that there were like soft clues or a soft flag was raised for an attrition, we could actually generate some kind of communication. The fourth one was engaging consumers with eCRM to personalize marketing. Understand where the customer is in their life cycle. What is the lifetime value? How could I try to kind of increase their, what are the kind of offers that I could send across to him? Where are they on their lifetime value with me? How can I kind of increase it, cross-sell it, upsell it? Which brings me to the next point of activation of marketing activities towards him or her. And the last and not the least is tracking it. What the speakers before said, see the data and kind of question it. We will actually look at what is the data being kind of told to us and what is being shown to us so that we can actually take action, go back. The reason why I gave you this format of telling this business story first and told you what is the loop is where actually a lot of questions get unanswered. Everybody wants a data strategy. But my question is, what is the question you're trying to answer? You first get the business question up front, and your data strategy will follow. Here, the first thing that we did was ask everybody, what are the business strategy or what are the business questions you want to tackle? And we got the data ready at that level. It was so granular that you could cut and slice the data at any level. And you could also aggregate it at any level. And that helped answer a lot of business questions. What you got at the end of the day, when you take all the data together, is what we call as a segment of one. You get social reviews, you get demographic, you get psychographic, you get all different kinds of data that is there. And this, when you get it all together, and this is what people suffer from. We don't get all the data. This is the best case scenario. When we get this, we get the segment of one. We understand who that consumer is, and you can actually talk to that particular customer then and there. Let me move on quickly to the next one. What is agile marketing? So there is this international bank which wanted to do a campaign marketing. They got the data together. They got everything together. They got the legal approval. They started talking to their marketing team. They started getting their campaign tool ready. Everything was done. And finally, they were ready in 8 weeks. In a world where the attention span on a video lasts less than 2 minutes. On a page, it lasts less than 1 minute. 8 weeks is too much. What is agile marketing? Agile marketing is obviously bringing the concept of project management of agile and try to kind of make the change every 2 weeks or every week made based upon the definition you can define there. And where you can stop and change, you are adaptable to change. Those are the things that you should actually look at when you're talking about agile marketing. I'll give you one example before I wrap up. So there was this retail company. They were getting almost competitive pricing every 2 hours. And they would take around a week to change their pricing. You understand what I'm trying to say? They're getting pricing decisions every 2 hours. They're taking almost a week to change it. And by that time, you know how many times the prices have changed. And that was leading to a big loss for them. They were behind against their competition. So what did they do? Let's find out. Again, we created the data mart, but we used ML and AI where we could actually bring in and take that data, implement rates, the price change against the competition to our products, our categories that were there. We could benchmark against the categories. The end benefit was from 4 days, we were able to also respond in 2 hours. The other thing that happened was they didn't have to look at all their portfolio. They looked at 20%, which brought 80% of the revenue. I'll leave you with one final anecdote. So there is a catch to if you leave everything to artificial intelligence. So there was this one product which the competition had, and they had just one SKU. So what happened was, they wanted to get rid of it, so they discounted it by 90%. So what did the AI do? We had 10,000 of them. They discounted our 10,000 at 90%. Fortunately, our anomaly detection system found it and stopped it right there. Else, it would have been a big loss. So don't leave everything to artificial intelligence. There is sometimes you need to step in as well. So as I said, there is personalized data where you can get creative by bringing in other pieces of data. There is survey, there is geospatial, there is so much other things out there. But it all goes back to what is the business question you're trying to answer. That is where it should start, not at what data I should put in the data lake. I can dump everything, I can match everything. All the engineers can do it. All the data engineers are here to put the data together. My question to you is, what is the business question you're trying to answer? And when you're trying to do agile marketing, is your marketing ready to change and adapt to new systems and get back really fast at the changing scenario that is happening? That's my time, folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. With that, I would also request Mr. Alok Pandey, Vice President Sales and Marketing, Zap Ads, to please come forward as we would like to present a token of appreciation to you as well. gentlemen, moving forward. Also, let me tell you that we have a really, really nice wine and cheese networking session after the event where you can, have a one-on-one interactive session with the speakers, with the panelists, the moderators, and everyone out here. So don't miss out on that. It's going to be at the end of the event. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess it's time for our next session. In today's world of digital disruption, organizations in every field face threats from alternatives with better technology, better business models, better operational value chains, and better customer experiences. Digital transformation is not a new phenomenon, but more recently, we have seen it accelerate across all industries. We are seeing digital innovators disrupt incumbents' business models left and right by innovating at a much faster pace. These digital innovators understand the power of unifying data across their organization to drive real transformation and value creation. We are going to have a fireside chat now to understand the investment in data for business transformation. So please help me in welcoming Kamolika Perez, Director, Google Cloud, and Gaurav Anand, Chief Digital and Marketing Officer, L'Oreal. Come on, guys, let's have some energy in the room. Warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this fireside chat, which I'm sure will be extremely engaging and interesting. My name is Kamolika Perez. I'm a director with Google Cloud India. And it's my absolute privilege to be here for the second edition of MMA's Data Unplugged. Now, data, of course, is the word that's brought all of us here today. It's the buzzword, the catchphrases that we all use. Data is the new oil, which always gets a groan and an eye roll. But also interesting ones like, in God we trust, the rest have to bring data. The latest one I heard was that wherever there's data smoke, there's fire, which to me indicated that whenever there's innovation happening on the data front, whenever there are data initiatives that's being undertaken by an organization, usually shows or is usually symptomatic of strategizing, innovating, and just looking for new ways to do things with the consumer. So to talk about that today, I have a very special guest, Gaurav Anand, Chief Digital and Marketing Officer of L'Oreal India, in charge of consumer insights, consumer advisory, data, media, and strategy. Welcome, Gaurav, to today's session.
Thank you, Komalika.
So Gaurav, just to tee things off for today, of course, L'Oreal India and L'Oreal overall, extremely storied organization, 100-year legacy, but really also in the thick of all the transformations happening digitally, right? I mean, the change in the world of beauty tech, and interestingly, the word beauty tech apparently was coined by L'Oreal, and all the changes in the ecosystem that's happening. How are you charting your journey with consumer data through all of this change and innovation?
It's a very, very interesting question, Komalika. If there is one thing I want you guys to take out from our chat today, is the best way to find your future consumers is to look at your current consumers. And I'll elaborate on that a bit. It quite often pains me to see still a lot of marketing brief in the section when it says, tell me about your consumer. They said 18 to 44 females in India. If the mission is to acquire consumers, beyond the content, the key area where you can differentiate is how to find my consumer. And for L'Oreal, our single biggest mission is to acquire consumers. And this is not a marketing mission. This is on the mission strategy from our CEO. And if we have to do that better and more efficiently than others, then we need to find ways to find our consumer better. And that's where consumer data fits in. Just to give you a few examples, there are 3 areas in which we are looking at the application of consumer data. One, as I said, we have a lot of transacting consumers in India. Some of the data that we are getting from them, we are leveraging Facebooks and the Googles of the world to find audiences similar to that. And the level of intelligence that these platforms has today is better than the guesswork of any marketer. So if you take your consumer data and find audiences similar to that, with the use of intelligence that is existing in Facebook and Google, the robustness of the consumer you get is much higher. And when we are doing our marketing campaigns on this, we are seeing the results. 2 to 3 times higher ad recalls. Even the CPCs are looking much better. So that's one. Second, in my mind, one of the most understated and the forgotten heroes are the people who have shown interest in your brand, but you are not leveraging that data. These could be people who takes a sample from Kiehl's, or these could be people who have come to your websites or to your D2Cs. How do we take these high intent consumers, find people like them, and use that as an audience? And third, which is the most interesting bit, is the partnership. For example, we are looking for affluent consumers for Lancome. We are doing partnership with some of the aggregators who bring credit card details, credit card data on people who are the high affluent or spending high. We are doing that work with also aggregators who are doing neighborhood targeting, for example. We are also doing that work with aggregators who are doing a lot of sampling of it. So with these 3 areas, we are leveraging the consumer data to find our audiences better than hopefully our competitors and improve our cost of acquisition.
No, thank you so much for sharing that and sharing the whole spectrum of what's being done to actually identify and find the consumer and then have a conversation with her. Let me ask you this, Gaurav, that if you actually look a little far ahead, like let's say 3 to 5 years into the future, how do you think this scenario is going to change? Because if I just look, let's say 3 years into the past, just in that time, the amount of technology that's being used and the amount of, whether it's personalization, digitization that's being driven, has changed drastically. So a little bit of crystal ball gazing, if I may.
No, I think we don't have to look too far. L'Oreal presence in China is very strong. And if you look into that, and not just L'Oreal, in China, the entire category, if you look at, especially in beauty, nearly 40 to 50% of media today is leveraged from data, which is a big drastic shift if we think about the India ecosystem. If that is likely going to happen, a lot of partners will need to work together. It would also mean a big shift of ad spends from some of the other channels. But I do see that is a likelihood scenario. My team, we are also gunning for a particular percentage of our media that should be coming from first-party data, because we want to be ahead of the curve on this.
No, that's a great point. And if I may probe you a little more, you mentioned the importance of partnerships in your earlier question as well as in this one. How do you see that panning out? Because I guess the partnership ecosystem is something that's also changing as we go ahead.
No, definitely. If somebody is sitting in their office rooms are thinking that this transformation they can do by themselves, they're just kidding themselves. There are a few elements in partnership. And, again, the Googles and the Facebooks, when they talk about their marketing, they talk about partnerships. So in my previous life, I was working for Facebook, now Meta. And then when I had moved there from a company like Procter & Gamble, I was like, wow, what is the power of external partnerships? Because quite often in CPG, we are all talking about media, how do we improve our spont awareness and stuff. But the tech companies are doing a phenomenal job in marketing by leveraging partnerships, finding the right audiences, making the shake hands, and leveraging it. So if we have to crack consumer data, it's a lot of partnership across channels where you can have an aggregated set of consumers. It could be Facebook, Google, Amazon, Nikes of the world. It is also the aggregators who are going to bridge the data that a manufacturer has with relevant transactional data. So I just talked to a few folks as well here. And the third element is also our retailers. One of the examples I would love to share is with one retailer, we reached out to them saying, okay, how can we have a win-win scenario on the use of data? And we realized that both the retailer and us had the same KPI. They wanted more consumers for beauty. We wanted more consumers for beauty. But previously, we were a little greedy on saying, okay, give us a specific cohort which will only benefit us. And now what we have started doing, okay, let's broaden the spectrum so that we have if it is truly partnership, it should help you as well. So with one of the retailers, we worked on the data of people who had downloaded their app but had not made a purchase. And now with that cohort, we help them buy a L'Oreal product, which helped both the partners, us, clearly, but also to the retailer, who, because for them, these were the consumers who were still sitting on the fence. And I think that's the future of the partnership, on how we can evolve and benefit both partners and us in acquiring consumers via consumer data.
Oh, that's such a fantastic example, Gaurav. The power of partnerships indeed, I think, will play a central role. It is playing and will continue to play a central role. Let me shift the lens a little bit away from the consumer, right? Now, when you talk about data, yes, of course, consumer data is, of course, very central. It's kind of where everything starts. But there's the rest of the organization, right? And we have data for business planning, operations planning, supply chain, a lot of which kind of anchors your speed of response to the same consumers. What's your view on how that part of it is working, both in general and with your experience in L'Oreal?
No, definitely. I think the data is a common thread across all the elements that you see on the P&L. So let me take two examples. One from supply chain. Your ability to accurately predict how much you will sell has a direct correlation to how much you sell, especially in this world where e-commerce is critical. If you have under-predicted, you're not available, those are sales lost. If you have over-predicted, inventory cost increases, sometimes it also leads to destruction of products. And ability to predict your demand is getting more and more complicated, because earlier you had to do it just internally. Now you have to do it with the retailers. So it's a little bit of a joint forecasting. And in that space, the enthusiasm your marketing team has for the new launch or for the new campaign might not be the same as the retailer has for it, right? Or your sales team's enthusiasm on this promotion is going to give me X uplift might not be replicated by the retailer, for example, right? So your chances of either over-predicting or under-predicting is very high. Yeah. And the solve here is data. Right? Obviously, you can nudge it a little bit based on your human assessment of the situation, but we have always seen that if the data is given a chance to predict the forecast, it usually ends up doing a better job over a long time than just the folks involved, right? So we are doing a lot more work on how do we use AI ML to do more demand sensing so that we don't lose any sale opportunity or don't over predict our demand. So that's one on supply chain. If I had to share one more which will be relevant to the audience, it would be from the world of e-commerce. Right? So gone are the days where you optimize once in a month your campaigns, your media, your supply chain, your forecast. But in e-commerce, you're actually doing on a weekly basis and sometimes even on a daily basis. And one of the age-old questions is, the sales team is going to tell you you're spending too much on marketing and too little on promotion. And the marketing team is going to tell you you're spending too much on promotions and too little on marketing. And data can solve that as well. So today, at an SKU level, you can get a sense of, with your promotion, what is the level of promo intensity? Are you over-promoting, under-promoting? And if you have the right modeling between promotions and media, you can even decide the trade-offs on should I reduce on this particular SKU for this week our promo spends and pull it back into media. And if I have to put it back into media, where I should do that. So these trade-offs on promo and media on a daily basis is what helps you keep your P&L on e-commerce accretive. And this is going to get more and more important as we talk. More sales through e-commerce. So those are the two examples that come to my mind when we talk about, how does data help in your operations and your planning?
No, I mean, those are great examples, Gaurav. And I think this is something that gels with our experience also, that for all the investments going into, first-party data and getting, the consumer data and the consumer's version of the truth, When you actually match it with the rest of the organization, look at fulfillment rates, look at decision making in the moment, all of that, all of which also depends on a lot of siloed legacy systems. But if you can do that, if you're able to really leverage the power of data across the board, that's when it becomes a solution that's more than the sum of its parts. So yeah, absolutely, I would say +1, +100 to that. So with that, we come to the end of today's fireside chat. I'm sure the audience wishes it could have gone on for longer, but Gaurav, let me thank you for coming here today and sharing your insights for what has been a very, very interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question to just. Thank you. Thank you so much for such an invigorating session. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our co-powering partner, one of the co-powering partner is HD1 Audience. HD1 Audience is HD Media's first-party targeting solution that offers unified customer cohorts built from rich customer profiles of close to 140 million digital users. For next session, I would like to invite on stage Mitesh Desai, who will be talking about leveraging first-party data to drive brand impact, a publisher's perspective. Mitesh is the head agency partnership and sales excellence HD Media Group. He's a media veteran with more than 22 years of experience. He has partnered on the growth agenda across various industry giants. As a part of the sales excellence initiative, he is currently driving the CDP adoption and audience revenues for HD Media. Warm welcome and sorry to keep you waiting.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Mitesh, and as I was introduced, I lead sales excellence and digital initiatives at HD Media. So while, very interesting sessions earlier on, and I'm here to give you a perspective of how does publishers like us, like HD Media, fit into the overall world. You heard about Meta, and Google spoke about leveraging personalization and personalized ads, and to drive effectiveness, I'm here to share our story. So while most digital advertising is still concentrated on large ecosystems like social and search, news publishers like us are increasingly gaining reach and traction. So, however, unlike Meta and Google, no one installs HD pixels, right? So we have to keep trying harder, in fact. And also with the inevitable demise of 3P cookie data, advertisers are now looking to large trusted platforms like us to drive relevance and impact for the brand. So earlier in the day, we heard David, who spoke about importance of CDP in today's data-driven marketing world, and I'm going to share our experience in leveraging CDP to grow business. So that's what I'll be sharing our story with you. Okay. So in the past, we used to leverage a lot of third-party data solutions to provide targeting services to our advertisers. Increasingly, with the inevitable decline in the 3P cookie, and with regulations such as the Data Protection Bill, I believe there are conversations today as Ashwini Vaishnav tables and speaks and crafts the details of the bill today. We realize the need to build our own first-party data solution stack. So HD Media is known for engaging content, for diverse advertising cohorts and audiences at scale, and our cross-platform solutions like digital, print, radio, coupled with our ability to weave a meaningful narrative for brands, has delivered innovative and effective business outcomes for advertisers. So up until now, we are known for monetizing content with solutions such as contextual advertising and IP-based, which is intellectual property based marketing with a lot of IP properties that we have, as opposed to audiences, right? So we have not sold audiences as yet. We are learning. We are making our journey from selling content and context to audiences. So that's the path that we are treading. And increasingly, advertisers are asking us to sharply define the target group and drive more relevance for their campaigns. So they are asking us questions like, hey, Mint is a great platform to reach people interested in finance, but can we also identify and reach finance audiences across Hindustan Times and Hindi Hindustan, which is another of our large platforms as well. So how can we drive efficiencies by increasing our reach and frequency across the platforms? So we set out on our first-party journey and chose to build through the CDP route. Our plan is to use the capability to drive monetization across subscriptions, advertising, and new products. So when it comes to subscriptions, we are looking to answer the questions as who are our most valuable customers across our platforms and audiences? How do we upsell and cross-sell our subscriptions to those audiences? So for example, we are leveraging our high-intent entertainment audiences to drive subscriptions for our newly launched OTT Play platform. So that's a subscription-driven platform, so we're leveraging that. For advertising, by delivering higher impact for our advertisers, we are also able to meaningfully charge higher CPMs in that process and therefore drive the business growth. What this platform is also doing is enabling better campaign pacing and optimization. The CDP platform has also enabled us to drive innovations for new product and content. So as we seek to drive and scale different cohorts, we are asking ourselves the question, what kind of content will drive these audiences? How do we engage them better? Can content drive consumers across the brand funnel of awareness, consideration, and conversion? And what is the content that is going to drive the consumer across that funnel? So a lot of thought is currently going on into building these threads in our organization. And what started as a solve for the inevitable demise of the third-party cookie is actually taking a different strategic shape in how we are defining the future of our company. So the CDP journey has yielded actually significant results for us, as you can see. Earlier on, almost zero targeting used to happen through first-party data solutions. We used to always look at third-party data solutions of third-party providers. But as of today, almost 66% of our targeted deliveries are happening through our first-party database, and it is increasing by the day. We've increased our cohort sizes and sheer number of cohorts that we offer to our advertisers. So while we can deliver bespoke audiences to our customers on demand, we have built close to 50 plus cohorts of meaningful scale. And when we speak about meaningful scale, it's about 10 million plus and more. And we've also enriched our cohort profiles to deliver a mix of gender, age, and interest, which otherwise would not have been possible. And better targeting has driven higher CTRs, up almost 30% for our audience campaigns as opposed to open targeting options. So our plan ahead is to further improve the quality of data through interventions such as disclosure, which means that get users to reveal more about themselves organically by offering them long-term value in exchange. So when I say value in exchange, it could be Mint reports, it could be a lot of sectoral reports that our editorial and content team churns out, and enabling more disclosure of data. Inferences, right? Create content skewed towards certain audiences, which we want to grow. We know that if this audience is in certain demand, we are now skewing our content building towards that. And engagement, knowing more about increasing user activity on-site via recommendation engines and cohort-specific offerings. And we are also actively driving 2P partnerships with a focus on intent data as well to build and scale our cohorts. And lastly, integration of all properties into one profile. Specifically on 2P partnerships, that's a journey to be made, because we don't have much of a login data. We are building on that, so there are a lot of work streams around to increase the login data, and where we can have a specific fields to match with 2P data providers. Yeah, and lastly, we are happy to explore partnerships with advertisers looking for first-party data sources that enable them to save both time and cost and resources in their 1P journey. So I'll end my presentation with a small video clip to summarize our offering and what the journey has been. If I can request the video to be AV to be played, please.
Introducing HD1 Audience by HD Media. HD1 Audience is HD Media's first-party audience solution powered by HD Media's own CDP, designed to help marketers reach their bullseye target audience. Tapping into engaged communities across its 20+ platforms, HD1 Audience follows its consumers' digital journey and analyzes their behavior, providing an aggregated view of consumer profiles. HD1 leverages HD Media's close to 140 million monthly users to deliver highly relevant cohorts at scale. HD1 Audience's 50+ specialized cohorts go wide and deep and are created keeping in mind the audience requirements across various industries. One of India's leading personal finance companies used HD1 to target relevant cohorts with personalized creatives. Car loan communication for audiences looking for automobiles. Home loan communication for home loan aspirants cohorts, and so on. The results? The campaign CTRs rose 30% above the category norms. So what are you waiting for? Choose HD1 Audience. Choose relevance that drives results.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that interesting presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Hamsas Equity is a leading provider of data-driven marketing solutions and services for blue-chip companies across India, and we would like to thank them for supporting us. We will be moving forward with our next session, which is our final segment as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the digital marketing ecosystem is pivoting in response to user expectations of privacy, and at the core of this shift is the relationship between brands and users. This industry shift is creating a new landscape for businesses with an increased focus on opportunities for first-party data-driven marketing. To discuss some key trends that are influencing this shift and take pointers on how your organization can stay ahead of the curve, we'd like to welcome our panelists and the moderator. So let's bring in some energy in the room by welcoming the panelists. Shashank Srivastava, Senior Executive Director, Marketing and Sales, Maruti Suzuki, India. Warm welcome. I would like to invite Jennifer Pandya, Vice President, Marketing, Carrot Lane. Warm welcome. I would like to invite the moderator for this session, Bhaskar Ramesh, MMA India Board Member and Director, Omnichannel, Google India. Warm welcome.
Thank you, Dhwani. All right, last session of the day. And I can promise you with Shashank San and Jennifer, it's going to be as entertaining and informative as it can get. Firstly, you guys have been a great audience. Thank you so much. Let me introduce you my guest. They need no introduction, but still. So Jennifer is Vice President Marketing at Carrot Lane. All of you must have bought something for yourself from Carrot Lane or gifted something from Carrot Lane to your loved ones. So she has 15 years of marketing and sales experience in B2B and B2C industry. A very interesting nugget I heard is she started her first job with Times Jobs, and then she moved from, what do you do after you get a job? You know, then she moved to Shadi.com and got people married. And after that, now she moved to Carrot Lane. So what do you do after marriage, right? You have to impress somebody. So she's now helping people stay in their marriages. So I don't know what you're going to do next, Jennifer. But thank you so much for joining today. We also have Shashank San. Again, no introduction. 1 out of every 2 cars sold in the country are by Maruti Suzuki. And Shashank San, Senior Executive Director with Maruti, and I had the privilege of partnering Shashank San over many years. Honestly, a huge respect for the digital transformation in the auto industry goes to the way Shashank San and his team led Maruti's transformation, I think from grounds up. With 30+ years of experience, there is no department within Maruti which Shashank San hasn't done. So thank you, Shashank San. And again, one unknown fact about Shashank San is an avid traveler. Any guesses how many countries has he visited so far? Any number, folks? 20? Higher? 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 How many countries are there in the world? 195. Okay. He visited 163 countries. Okay, so we'll have very interesting perspectives on this, but thank you, Shashank San, for making time. He has come all the way for this session, folks, so really grateful for that. Let me start with you, Shashank San. What this topic of leveraging first party in a privacy first world, there are 2 ends of the spectrum. One is consumers' expectations on privacy has increased, and organizations like yours are increasingly relying on who are you selling the car to, not necessarily leaving it that you care who are you selling it to, right? So what is that one thing that comes to your mind when you think of this topic?
So on the positive side, one thing which really excites me as a marketer is the hyper personalization that's now possible, both in terms of understanding the consumer, engaging with them, cross-sell, upsell, driving greater efficiencies and optimization in marketing efforts. That's really exciting for me. And on the other side, though, and I think the topic does touch upon that, is that I feel there is always this apprehension about data privacy. It's still an evolving field, so we have to be very careful. And also, if we have too much touch points with consumers, sometimes consumers, even if those touch points are relevant, consumers' overall satisfaction level might come down in the sense that they